Hello, hello. It's time for the 10th entry. So today's September 28th, Tuesday, 2021. So I've made 9 videos in 9 days so far. One every single day. And some people close to me have asked me, why am I doing this, right? Like, why the heck am I doing this? And I still don't have a good answer. I just feel like doing it. That's my best answer right now. And so I made these 9 videos so far, and I've enjoyed it. It's felt pretty good for some reason. And so I thought it might be interesting to see how many I could go in a row. How many days can I go in a row of making a new video where I talk about something. The only common thread between all of them is just going to be me, the person you see standing here. But it'll be a gigantic array of things that are going to be pretty unrelated. Like, I want to make one, I want to do a little van tour. I built a kind of a van life van, an adventure van. I want to show that off just because I'm proud of it. And I'll probably do a couple of videos of the house and just remodeling, reconstructing this house. But I don't want this to be a van channel or a house channel or a politics channel. So it's just a me channel. All you're getting is just me. So I went ahead and I made a little list of potential things I could talk about. And I realized that a lot of them are current events or political issues, and they're very, very hot issues, right? They're very contentious issues, and I was looking at the list and I realized it's a lot of negative vibes. One second. It's a lot of negative vibes. So I wanted to make one of just happiness and optimism, brightness a little bit, right? There's a spider trying to crawl up my camera. Okay. So why should I be optimistic? Why should anybody be optimistic? You look around today, go on the internet for 5 minutes, and you'll instantly find somebody getting killed somewhere, something crazy going on, riots, and, you know, unrest generally. There's a lot of reason for negativity. And I think humans we're built that way. We enjoy negativity in a way. We're more likely to focus on the tiger in the bushes than the bananas in the tree. That's kind of how I think about it. And the internet is largely a reflection of that. It's a lot of negative things going around. So, and I think if you ask the average person, are we headed in a good direction or a bad direction? Like, are we making progress? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? The average person might say, no, things are getting worse. I think they'd say that right now. But also, you can take a time machine and go to any time in human history, and I think you'll be able to find somebody who will say, nah, the world's going to shit, right? Like, that's always a common thread, a common theme. There's never been a time where everybody's been like, yeah, things are great. So before I go ahead and make all these other videos about all these more negative issues, I wanted to just go over some reasons why I should be optimistic and why everybody else should be optimistic. So first of all, I'm in the United States. It's 2021. It's pretty clear that we have some political unrest, some political division going on here. I think I'm not the only person who's a little bit nervous about coming presidential elections and who is nervous about behavior that I see around the country in different states. And that can make you pretty pessimistic pretty quick. So, on the bright side, we can talk our way out of this. There is no reason why we don't need to have violence. We can do this without violence. We don't need to burn things. We don't need to hurt people. We don't need to kill people. We can talk our way out of it. That is true. It is possible for us to settle our differences like this, just through talking. That's something we need to be reminded of. That's a reason to be optimistic. If you look around, we have the capacity to solve the problems that most people are concerned about. The capacity exists. I mean, look at, like, what's a major issue that faces the human race? Starvation, right? Not having enough food. As animals, we need to eat. As creatures, we have to consume. We currently have the capacity to feed everybody, at least in this country. More people are dying from overeating than from undereating, right? So that we have addressed an issue that has plagued humanity for all time, which is starvation. So if we can solve that, we can solve some of these other issues. I mean, I know it's not solved. It's not like everybody has access to delicious, healthy food all the time. You know, maybe your food that you're eating isn't that good, but at least it's food. At least it's keeping you from starving, right? And America, the United States, is not the only place. Like, I'm pretty sure starvation is at record lows for all of history, right? Mostly, more or less. And the starvation tends to be due to political reasons, and it's not due to lack of capacity, like physical capacity. So if we can do that, really the only thing preventing us from living the lives we want to live, all of us, is just talking. It's really just the argument. It's like the discussion, because we all have to share this space, right? None of us can live without the others. So I'm optimistic that we can talk our way through it, because we have access to this technology, right? Like, I can just talk to anybody I want right now. We don't need violent revolution. We don't need, like, maybe you think we need to topple the system, we need to collapse everything. Maybe you think we need radical change of some sort. There's no reason anybody has to die in that process. You can just... I don't know. I don't see any reason why we can't talk our way out of it. And I think if you think that people have to die for whatever you want, then you shouldn't be in power. I'm not supporting you. So I hope nobody else does. But okay, here's another angle on it. Here's another reason to be optimistic, and this is coming from I come from a very sort of technologist, futurist background, I think. I've always been into robotics, computers. I'm really excited by manufacturing and machining and, you know, those kinds of things. Like, we can make stuff just so much faster and better than we ever could, and it's just obvious to me, right? I know that people don't really tend to think about it that way, but we can produce everything that you see. Like, if you're inside your house right now and you're looking around, the house was made better than previous houses were made. I mean, across all of history. And the materials that are inside the house could have been brought from all around the world. Like, we have a global trade network, and it's a bunch of factories and machines all connected together to produce things that you have access to. You have to have money, but so it's not like everybody has access all the time, and I know that makes people upset. A lot of people think everybody should be fed. I mean, I think that too. I think if you ask the average person, everybody wants everybody to not starve, right? Like, that's a common complaint, like, oh, you just don't care about people. It's like, no. I think just about any human being you ask would prefer that nobody starves to death. It's just, the argument's over the solutions you're producing about it. But what I'm trying to say is that physically, we have access to tools and to stuff that we never had access to before. Like, just go walk around Home Depot for an hour. That's an entire, you could build almost anything if you just had time and money. And that was not available to anybody in your past. Not like that, unless they were very wealthy, right? So it's becoming democratized. You know, people get very upset at the Reaganomics concept of trickle-down economics. Forget about money. Think about tools. Tools are trickling down in a way, right? A car was only available to the richest human being on earth at some point. So, and now cars are available to a lot more people. And the same goes for every single thing. I mean, most things like phones and power drills and that's not the only thing. Think about the power grid. There's more people connected to the power grid today than ever before in human history. And if you don't think that's a good thing, I don't know, then you must be some like primitivist, right? Where you're like, well, electricity didn't help anybody, but it's like, you can have lights on at night now for, you can see things at night, which is a superpower to somebody 10,000 years ago. And you can power a refrigerator. I know I already went on about fridges in one of these things, and access to the power grid is an incredible achievement. And it's something that every American I know takes for granted. Like, they don't think about what it means to have the ability to have electricity at your fingertips at any time. Electricity is like a god power. I mean, Thor is the god of thunder, right? And so in mythology, the only people with access to electricity were Zeus and Thor, and now a 2-year-old can turn on a light switch, right? So that is the democratization of something. And then along with the power grid comes the internet. I mean, people say it all the time now. They say it so much that it's just become part of your background knowledge. You have access to the infinite library of human knowledge. Anything that anybody's ever said is on the internet for free. Like, I've been working on this house, right? I have to do plumbing. I've had to wire outlets. I've had to do framing for the house. It's all available on YouTube for free. All you need is an internet connection, which I know isn't free, but it's available to more people than ever before, which is a reason to be optimistic. Anybody can express themselves. Anybody. They just anybody with access to a smartphone. But like I've been saying, I mean, what's the number of smartphones on the planet right now? I think it's like half the human race has smartphones. That's amazing. That's like a beautiful fact. I know that smartphones come with a lot of problems. I used to call it the little nightmare rectangle because it sucks you in. We all know that smartphones are not purely good, but they are also incredibly powerful tools that we have access to. So I almost hesitate to say this at the risk of sounding insensitive or blind to people's problems, maybe ignorant, maybe I'm ignoring people's problems, but I have been called insensitive a lot of times in my life. But have some gratitude. Have some gratitude. I think that that's just something some people need to hear, is that you need to be grateful that you're living now versus a time, like, imagine being born a medieval peasant. Imagine being born into some, like, there's just lifestyles that I just imagine. Like, what about people that lived in like northern Siberia, like Russia or something, back in the Ice Age? I am so glad I was not born then and into that. I would much rather be born now. There's always arguments to make about whether the hunter-gatherer lifestyle might have been healthier or better, but it wasn't better for everybody. I mean, it was probably great if you were like a strong, athletically fit person who was very sociable. That was probably a great lifestyle. You don't have electricity, but you'd have a group of people that you love and trust, and they would love and trust you, and you probably wouldn't be starving depending on where you're living. So there's always, we can't romanticize their life, but we also can't regarded as barbaric. Like the caveman that we've kind of been taught, like the caveman doesn't really exist. It's more of, there's so many reasons to be optimistic. The only thing standing between us and a better future is really just, it's really just us. It's not, there aren't physical barriers that we can't break, right? There aren't physical barriers we can't solve. We really could be, if we played our cards right now and we got people together and we actually worked on this stuff, we could be a multi-planetary species. We could have, the Earth could be like a beautiful green place where everybody's fed, everybody's taken care of. You know, I don't know if we're ever going to get to a point where nobody has to do any work. Like that seems to be kind of a thought process, that we're going to get to a future where you're just, all you do is concern yourself with the procreation of your species, right? Like that's a mythical utopian realm. I think that at least a fraction of the human race is always going to have to work and be productive and produce. It's not clear whether 100% of people will be able to, right? There's going to be a time in the future where it's almost going to be difficult to be economically useful, right? It's because you have to trade your skills or your body for money in a way, right? Like a retail worker. When I say trade your body, I don't mean like sex. I mean like a plumber, right? Can't be replaced by a robot yet. And it's not going to, because you need a human body to do a plumbing job, right? You can't do that with a robot yet. But at some point, maybe plumbing gets replaced by robots. In which case, what are plumbers going to do? And this goes for every single career ever. Pretty much. So, there is going to be a time, you know, I don't want to sound like too much of a utopian futurist here, but like manufacturing and machining and robotics and computer technology are progressing so quickly that it's not unreasonable to think that we're just going to continue to solve problems continuously. All we have to do is not fuck it up. That's all we have to do, is really just stay stable enough. Don't collapse what we have. I think a lot of people, you hear it a lot, they want to overturn everything. And I get it. Things are unequal. Jeff Bezos has 1 million times more than I do. But it's not like he's eating more than I'm eating, right? Like, right now, I'm 10 minutes away from eating a sandwich, if I really wanted to. And so is Jeff Bezos. He can't get a sandwich into his mouth faster than I can. Maybe his ingredients will be more delicious and better, but like the inequality in terms of the financial inequality does not translate to material inequality the same way. Like, sure, Jeff Bezos can buy 1 million sandwiches, but he can't eat 1 million sandwiches, nor would he want to. So it's like, the inequality is not fair, maybe. You could say that. Things aren't entirely fair. But gratitude is required. Maybe that's the word that I should focus on. It's just gratitude. Gratitude and optimism are not unreasonable. It is possible that we are in a very good situation right now, and it's possible that we are headed towards an even better situation. And I know that I know all the counter arguments to this. We've all heard them constantly, especially if you just hang around any, you know, I'm talking from my experience. This is me talking. I've hung around a lot of people who have some very, very harsh things to say about our current world and how they would change it. And they, you know, to a large extent, your circumstances in your life are determined where you're born, right? And who's your parents, and things aren't, it's not like everybody gets the same hand of cards when they're born, and I get that, but your hand of cards is probably better than your ancestors' hands of cards was. And I think that goes for most people. That's true of most people. And it's almost like we have a long way to fall if we mess things up. One second, I gotta go up this little hill. Optimism is not irrational. In fact, pessimism might be irrational. I don't know. Are we getting better or worse? I think we're getting better. I think we only have to keep talking. All right. Bye.